$112 billion. That's not Apple's profit last quarter. That's not their R&D budget. That's how much Apple's value vanished in 2 days after unveiling the iPhone 17, September 9th, 2025, Apple's awe-dropping event. Except the only thing dropping was their stock price, 3.2% in 24 hours. For a company that once made waiting in line for a phone feel like a religious experience, this lukewarm reception isn't just a bad day at the office, it's a warning sign that the empire Steve Jobs built might finally be showing cracks in its titanium frame. How did Apple go from the most anticipated product launches in the world to this? The answer starts 2 decades back. Let's rewind to a time when smartphone meant a BlackBerry with a tiny keyboard and Nokia was selling 468 million phones a year. January 9th, 2007, Macworld Conference. Steve Jobs walks on stage and says 8 words that would destroy entire companies. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. No keyboard, no stylus, just glass, metal, and pure ambition. The industry laughed. Microsoft's Steve Ballmer laughed at this, calling it the most expensive phone in the world. But who's laughing now? 2007, 1.4 million iPhones sold. 2008, 11.6 million. 2010, 40 million. 2011, 72 million. How did Apple turn a single device into a cult-like following, where people lined up for days to buy the most expensive phone in the world? Through selling not just a phone, but an ecosystem. The App Store launched in 2008 with 500 apps. Within 3 years, 500,000 apps, 25 billion downloads. While Nokia burned through CEOs and BlackBerry clung to physical keyboards like life rafts on the Titanic. Apple redefined what a phone could be. By 2011, they weren't just in the smartphone industry. They were the smartphone industry. The iPhone's early ramp wasn't just fast, it rewired consumer expectations and supply chains. By the early 2010s, Apple's iPhone line accounted for the majority of the company's revenue and effectively turned the smartphone into the primary personal computing device for consumers. Apple later reported cumulative sales in the billions and an installed active device base in the low billions by mid-decade, a number that would later underpin the massive services business that followed. If early smartphones were pocket calculators, the iPhone was a Swiss Army knife that kept adding tools: camera, music player, GPS, then an app store, until it replaced the whole toolbox. But Apple's true genius? Create customers. They created disciples. Think about it. When's the last time you saw someone apologize for having a Samsung? Never. But sorry for the green bubbles has become a genuine dating app deal breaker. Apple turned their messaging system into a social caste system, and we just accepted it. They made technology emotional, personal. The iPhone became less about specs and more about identity. You weren't buying a phone with a faster processor, you were buying membership to an exclusive club. Apple keynotes became tech evangelism, grown adults taking days off work to watch a corporation announce a slightly better camera. And it worked. Apple's device margins are substantially higher than most Android OEMs. They've historically captured a disproportionately large share of smartphone industry profits. And iPhone retention has often been reported in the high 80s to low 90s in US surveys. Whereas Android loyalty is generally lower in many of those surveys. They didn't just lock you into their ecosystem, they made you grateful for the prison. However, status only lasts as long as people believe. So, how did Apple's rivals start chipping away at this image? Here's where our story takes a turn. Remember when each iPhone felt revolutionary? The iPhone 4's Retina display, the 5's larger screen, the 6's complete redesign, the X's Face ID. Now, the iPhone 17's big innovation is, it's thinner. The Air model. That's it. That's the headline. While Apple was polishing the same formula, Samsung introduced foldable displays. Google perfected computational photography. Xiaomi launched 200-watt charging, 0 to 100% in 8 minutes. Numbers don't lie. Global market, Android, 72.46% and iOS 27.54%. China, Apple fell from number 1 to number 3 behind local brands. India, Apple has just a single-digit percentage market share. 2024, iPhone shipments declined 1% year over year. And let's talk price. The iPhone 17 Pro Max, $1,199. You know what else costs $1,199? A decent used car, a semester of community college, 400 cups of coffee. The reaction to iPhone 17 tells the whole story. No longer are people camping outside stores. The live stream comments weren't "take my money," they were "so what's actually new? What happens when the magic starts to wear off?" And even Wall Street starts to notice. September 9th, 2025 saw Wall Street dump $112 billion of value in Apple stock in a 24-hour period. This post-event stock movement was widely reported, and the market reaction was accompanied by analyst downgrades and commentary calling the launch uninspired or underwhelming, particularly pointing to a lack of headline AI features compared with competitors. If Apple's keynote used to be a fireworks show, this felt like a smaller sparkler. Pretty, but not a bombshell. While Apple was admiring its reflection, the Android army was mobilizing. And they weren't fighting fair, they were fighting smart. Xiaomi's strategy? Why pay $1,400 for 90% of the experience when you can pay $400 for 85%? The Redmi series decimated Apple's dreams of conquering India and Southeast Asia. Samsung went wide. Foldables, ruggedized, gaming, budget, premium. They became the Toyota of phones, something for everyone, while Apple remained the Ferrari that most could only dream about. Google? They chose brains over brawn. The Pixel's camera doesn't have the most megapixels, but its AI can literally remove your ex from photos. That's innovation that matters. Chinese brands stopped copying and started creating. Under-display cameras, 240 watts charging, gaming triggers, vapor cooling systems, microscope cameras. Yes, really. Each innovation was a paper cut. Alone, survivable. Together, death by 1,000 features. The irony? Apple invented the smartphone arms race. Now they're losing it. While they debate whether 8 gigabytes of RAM is pro enough, OnePlus ships with 24 gigabytes. While they celebrate titanium frames, competitors are shipping phones that charge fully during your coffee break. In recent quarters, IDC and Canalys reported strong growth for Chinese OEMs and renewed strength for Samsung in multiple markets. Combined, non-Apple vendors accounted for a record share in several key quarters. So what's Apple's move? How does a $3 trillion company avoid becoming the next BlackBerry? Option 1. The next revolution. Apple needs their iPhone moment again. The rumored AR glasses, the abandoned car project. True AI integration that isn't just Siri with a philosophy degree. They need to stop iterating and start innovating. Option 2. The service empire. Forget hardware supremacy. Apple's services generated around $96 billion last year. iCloud, Music, TV Plus, Fitness Plus. Maybe the future isn't selling you a new phone every year. It's making the phone you have indispensable. Option 3. The democratic approach. iPhone SE exists, but it's an afterthought. What if Apple actually competed in the $400 to $600 range? What if they admitted that not everyone needs a Pro Max everything? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Apple's problem isn't features or pricing. It's physics. Smartphones have hit the innovation ceiling. When your phone already does everything perfectly, why upgrade? IBM dominated PCs, then didn't. Nokia owned mobile, then didn't. BlackBerry defined business phones, then didn't. The pattern is always the same. Domination, complacency, disruption, decline. Apple's services segment has grown rapidly and reached record revenue levels in recent fiscal years, becoming a major profit driver that can help offset hardware cycles. Apple has repeatedly emphasized services and the installed base as long-term growth levers. Think of Apple as a fortress built from premium bricks. Hardware. Services are the mortar, invisible, hard to dislodge, and once it hardens, the fortress remains usable even if the bricks stop getting shinier. So, the reason Apple went from one of the most anticipated launches annually across the globe to a muted reception and a loss in stock value is because of their lagging response to a world changing faster than their phones have over the last few decades. Whether you're running a Fortune 500 company or a food truck, Apple's stumble teaches 3 critical lessons. 1. Your moat is temporary. Apple's ecosystem was impenetrable until it wasn't. Every competitive advantage has an expiration date. The question isn't if someone will copy you, but when. 2. Innovation isn't optional. The moment you stop pushing forward, you start falling behind. Apple got comfortable. They confused refinement with innovation, polish with progress. 3. Arrogance is expensive. $112 billion expensive, apparently. When you assume customers will buy anything with your logo, you've already lost. Brand loyalty is rented, never owned. The beauty of capitalism? Today's disruptor is tomorrow's disrupted. Some hungry startup in a garage right now is building Apple's replacement. They don't know it yet. Apple doesn't know it yet, but history says it's happening. 3 tactical moves for businesses: measure your moat, quantify where your margins come from and how easily competitors can replicate the component parts. Create asymmetric bets, fund high-risk projects, AR/AI, with separate P and L to allow failure without killing core business. Make loyalty two-way. Loyalty programs, meaningful upgrades, and trade-in incentives reduce churn. The iPhone 17 won't kill Apple. Neither will the 18 or 19. But each lukewarm launch, each evolutionary update, each day they choose safety over boldness, that's another brick in the wall between them and their next breakthrough. The question is, are we witnessing the end of Apple's innovation or just the calm before their next revolution? Let me know in the comments. Are you still buying iPhones or have you already jumped ship?